Hello everyone, my name is D. Ramgopal Reddy, Assistant Professor in Civil Engineering Department, Annamacharya University. So today we will discuss about water demand. Water demand is nothing but the quantity of water required by an individual to satisfy his or her needs. So in a daily life we will use water for so many purposes, like in our domestic purpose, like in our residential houses we will use water for cooking, bathing and washing and all. In similar way we use water in industries also, as well as for commercial buildings also. So that depends upon what type of source, like how much quantity of water is required. So that it mainly depends upon population. If you are having a very less population, if you take an example, if for villages you just require one sources. Like in villages mostly 5 to 10,000 people will live. If you go to any towns and cities, nearly lakhs of people will live. So in that circumstances, you need to take one or more sources to provide water to them. So here you need to understand water demand is nothing but the quantity of water required for an individual to satisfy their needs. So why we need to estimate this water demand means for designing or calculating any hydraulic parameters like design flow, pumping power, reservoir capacity and pipe sizes. We need this water demand. Why? Because these water demand will use us like how much size of pipe we need to take to flow that water. Second is reservoir capacity. Based upon the population, we will design the reservoir capacity. If it is very less populated village or town, we will design very small reservoirs. If it is a town or city, we will design very high reservoir capacity. Similarly, the pumping power, like pumping stations. Like if you want to supply for water for very low number of people or low elevation, based upon that we will take what kind of pumping system we needed. If the elevation, we are having high elevation locations, we will go with the gravity flow. If there is no chances of gravity flow, then definitely we need to go for pressurized flow. So to estimate all these four parameters, definitely we require water demand. So next we will go with type of demands. Type of demand means in general we will use water for so many purposes, like for domestic, commercial, industrial and institutional purpose, as well as for fire demand. And some of the water, these municipality when they are supplying, some of the water will be in between, it loses due to leakages and all. So the general classification of these demands are: one is domestic water demand, second is commercial and institutional demand, third is fire demand, next is demand for public users, and next is compensated losses demand. So these are the general classification of water demand. So we will discuss about domestic water demand. Domestic water demand is nothing but like in our residential houses, what are the we will use water for so many purposes like drinking, cooking, washing, cleaning and all. So the amount of water required for an individual to satisfy their needs for drinking, cooking, washing, cleaning, etc., which are comes under residential area. All these things are comes under this domestic water demand. And these quantities may differ from person to person, location to location, region to region, and based upon the financial status of the family also. For example, if you are having very low financial, like a very low or middle age income people, low economic status, there you don't go for washing machines and all. If you are getting high amount of salaries and all, definitely you will buy washing machines. There the quantity of water will be increased. So that is mainly depends upon lifestyle. Second is climatic conditions. Climatic conditions means in summer we will consume more amount of water when compared with winter. Similarly, size of the family. If based upon the family, if you are having less family, less quantity of water is required. And next is cost of water. Cost of water. If the municipal authority provide you water with a certain cost, definitely you will consume very less amount of water. So as the water is coming freely to us, so we will use more amount of water. In general, if they keep for 1 liter 10 paise and all, definitely people will look into that while they are using the water. So as per the standard of 117 to 1980, the Indian code, so generally average domestic consumption of water under normal conditions it is about 135 liters per day per capita. So this whatever the 135 liters we have seen here, it is classified or summarized into these categories. One is drinking. For drinking we will use 5 liters, cooking 5 liters, bathing 55 liters, washing clothes 20. So all these things will come nearly to 135 liters. This is under normal condition. If you go with full flushing conditions, so these are the things. Like in this case, like drinking and cooking, it won't differ. So while in case of bathing, here it is 55, here it is 75. If you are going for full flushing system, so here there may be a chances of they are using bathing tubs and all. Here for washing clothes, generally we use with buckets and all. Here maybe there will be chances of using washing machines and all. So this is the difference. So this is the normal conditions where it will take nearly 135 liters of water for individual. In full flushing systems, nearly 200 liters per day per capita. So this is the difference. Here it is like normal conditions. Here it is full flushing system conditions. Next, we'll go with commercial and institutional water demand. So commercial buildings like cinema halls, offices, hostels, hospitals, all these comes under commercial activities, as well as schools and all, like any colleges and all comes under institutional. So definitely to maintain that institute or any commercial building, definitely we need some quantity of water. So that quantity of water to maintain that thing is said to be commercial or institutional water demand. Next, so this is the general classification given by our code. So in hospital, if there are number of beds which is more than 100, so for every bed you need to give 450 liters of water. So whatever the units here you are seeing, it is in liters per day. So if you go to any hostels, so for one bed it should be 180 liters. If you go for any restaurants, it is 70 liters per seat, and if you go to any offices and all, 45 liters for any one person. So this is how they classified, like for one individual or one bed in one day, how much quantity of water is required for these all commercial activities as per our code 1172/1963. So this is about commercial water demand. Next is industrial water demand, and this water demand differs from industry to industry, and the second is based upon the size of the industry also. For example, if you want to, if you take an example of industry like paper industry, the amount of water consumed by the paper industry to produce 1 ton of paper is different, and the amount of water consumed by an automobile industry to produce one vehicle is different. So that is one thing. Second is like the size of the industry. If you are having very less size of industry, less quantity of water is required. If you are maintaining a huge bulk amount of industry, definitely you will require more amount of water. And in our overall total water demand, this industry demand will occupy nearly 20 to 25% of the total demand. So these are the few examples, like to produce one vehicle in terms of this automobile industry, they require 40 kiloliters of water. In a similar manner, for production of one ton of paper, it requires nearly 200 to 400 kiloliters of water. So whatever the terminology or numericals here you are seeing, those are in kiloliters. So depending upon the industry, the quantity of water is changing. So next is that these are the components where the industry uses water for processing, cooling, washing, boiling, and sanitary purposes. So next we will go for public demand for public users. Generally, this municipal authority for cleaning the roads or maintaining any parks, national parks, any in like fountains and all, they will take certain quantity of water. That particular quantity of water for using for public purposes and cleaning sewages and washing the roads, fountains, and gardens. All these comes under this demand for public uses, and it will occupy nearly 5% of the total water demand. And these are some statistics, like for public purposes, you need to supply 1.4 liter per meter square. For street washing, for every 1 meter square, you need to provide 1 to 1.5 liter. For sewer flushing, you need to provide 4.5 liter for capacity per day. So this is about the demand for public uses. Next, we will go with the compensate losses demand. So generally, at the time of supplying, there will be, if there is any improper connection, there may be a chances of leakages and all. And in between, some people will take illegal or unauthorized connections in between. So if we design like this municipal authority for designing and all, we will supply. For example, if you take 100 liters, we need to provide to an individual. If these compensation losses, if there is any leakage or unauthorized connection in between, nearly 10 to 15 liters will be lost. So in the design, what they will do means they will provide an allowance of 15% of total quantity. For example, if you want to provide 100 liters, in addition to that, we will provide an add-on of 15, like nearly 15 liters extra. So if we needed 100, we will provide nearly 115 liters. So if there is any losses and all, that will be compensated within these 15%. So next is we will go for fire demand. So fire demand, like generally this will occur immediately or spontaneously. So out of all the demands, initially we need to give first preference to this fire demand. Why? Because to reduce that dousing the fire, to reducing that fire and all, we need some quantity of water. So this is an emergency situation. That's why out of all water demands, the first preference should be given to this fire demand, and that also depends upon how much quantity of rate flow, like how much discharge you need to provide, as well as the quantity of water. These are the two governing parameters while designing fire demand or while estimating fire demand. So these are the general empirical formulas which are used to find out this fire demand. So which was given by American Insurance Association, and Freeman's formula, Kuchling's formula, Booston formula. All these, if you see here, this P is nothing but population in terms of 1000. So if you are having in lakhs, you need to convert that population into 1000, and that should be submitted over here. So these are the general empirical formulas which where we will use to calculate the fire demand. And next is the minimum, we need to maintain a minimum water pressure of 1 to 1.5 kg per centimeter to maintain this. And total for any individual, like if there are 4%, 4 liters, 40,000 people, 40,000 liters of water is required for this fire demand. So this is about the fire demand, and we talked about what is water demand and why we need to estimate this water demand, and what are the types of water demand. That is water types are water demand types are: one is domestic, industrial, commercial, compensate, and water for public uses. Thank you.